Sorry, you guys. I'm just getting started. I was on TikTok and I got kicked off TikTok because this was considered inappropriate. So I guess that's my sign. I should be on YouTube always. Screw those other platforms. YouTube is where I'd rather be anyway. So for those of you who are watching, my life fell apart last year, and I was really like busy dealing with personal stuff, and some orders came through on my website and I didn't realize it. And so I contacted the people who ordered and said, hey, do you want a refund? I didn't even notice that the orders came in. And they said, no, we still want the Christmas ornaments. So a year later, here I am doing the orders that they want. And for those of you that know, I am a singer and a painter. So I sing Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, and I paint the other days. And I'm getting ready to release more vlogs, but I just am now getting settled in my new life. So this has been a very slow process for me to get back into it. So this ornament is going to be an underwater scene, which is what the client wanted. So that's what we're doing right now. And it's kind of hard for me to see the way that I have my light set up. Can almost see it better through the camera. But anyway, so this is the top of the water. But from under the ocean. I don't have any completed examples because, first of all, I'm not taking new orders right now. I'm going to be, but you can see my artwork on my website, KristenMcNamara.com. But I am not taking any new orders. I'm basically going to finish my orders from last year, and then I will post what I can accomplish online. But I'm just getting my life back together, and so I don't want to make any commitments, but you can see my ornaments on my website under the art tab, I think. I'm not organized yet because I'm still, like I said, getting my life built back. So this is just for fun. I'm not trying to sell anything. This is already sold. You can barely draw a line. So I've been painting for a really long time. And it kind of comes natural to me. When I do straight lines, I have to hold my breath, honestly. But when I'm not painting ornaments, I do murals. I do, I body paint people. There is a video on my channel where you can look at, it's a few years old actually. I'm really careful about posting my body paint because it has a tendency to get flagged, and I don't want to screw with my channel's eligibility to grow, and in the past it can get in the way. So I'm very careful about posting my body art stuff, which is what I do in October. And I paint people's costumes on them, but thank you. So I have to apologize. I'm trying to figure out how I can see your comments. I have my iPad, but it's a little difficult to have everything. I haven't gone live in a really long time, so thanks for your patience. So again, this is going to be an underwater scene, and I'm just trying to figure out, I have to let this paint dry before I touch it, which is why sometimes I go between two different ornaments, which is what I'm going to do right now. So this isn't as boring and I can be more efficient. So, all right, so the theme that this client wanted is Florida Keys, ocean. So what I'm going to do with this one is I'm going to make this one, let's do like a sunset type situation. How's that sound? So I'm going to start here. I always start with the lightest part on these, because once you do one brush stroke, it really can be difficult to get those layers the way that you want them, and then I end up going back over my work way too many times. It's really annoying. So, but for those of you that are just joining us, these are ornaments that were ordered last year, and I did not see the orders because I was breaking off an engagement and rebuilding. Well, now I'm rebuilding my life, but it's taken almost a year, and I didn't even see this order in there. So I asked my client if she wanted a refund, and she said no. She said that she still wanted the ornaments. So I am now painting, and this is going to be a sunset. That's going to be underwater. We're just letting that dry. So what I like to do with this right here, I think I'm going to get some orange out. Some of these paints I haven't used in a very long time, so I'm learning which ones are still good and which ones aren't. These are actually airbrush paints that I use to paint my ornaments with. I just think that the pigment's way better. And so this is like a metallic orange. Opinion on horses. My opinion on horses? I mean, I love horses, and I grew up with horses. That's what you mean. So I'm going to keep the center pretty simple. I'm so glad I left TikTok and came to YouTube, because let me tell you, I'm trying to build my YouTube up with the right people. So I paint and I sing and I love vlogging, but a lot of times, I've vlogged lifestyle vlogs, and when your life falls apart, it can feel really difficult to vlog. And I went through some, massive changes in my life, and so lifestyle vlogging was not really something that I wanted to do, because the stuff I went through was so bad. I don't think anybody would want to watch that. I certainly didn't want to relive it by talking and filming about it. So what I did was I did a healing journal for narcissistic abuse. That you can find that playlist on my channel. And I just decided to go into making videos about how to help people. And so I kind of stopped doing creative things for a while, because when your nervous system is a mess, you just can't create. That's just not, I mean, I think a lot of people that have seen a lot of artists that go through things, they assume they make their best work when they're going through hardships. And that is sometimes the case, but this was so near and dear to my heart. I didn't have the bandwidth to create during the earlier this year. So I think what I'm going to do here now is do a few white clouds, and then I'll put yellow on top of them. You know, it's all a sequence of layering. And I cannot see. I can see it through the camera better than I can see due to the lighting. But anyway, so I sing on Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. And now that I've moved into my own place after basically living out of my suitcase for 10 months, I'm just now getting back into the swing of things. I've had to do multiple art projects that were prior commitments. And now I'm finally getting back on track and very excited to get creative again now that I'm healed. Well, I can't say that I'm completely healed. My heart's still pretty broken over certain things, but with time, with time. So, ever since I was a little girl, I always kind of would fall into my creativity instead of partaking in unhealthy choices. And so for me, when I went through all this, it was pretty difficult for me to it was extremely difficult for me to feel frozen as an artist, because that was always what I went to. So I'm really grateful to be creating again. This is really not the brush I should be using, but that's all right. We're almost ready to do something else, so I have to leave and come back. So painting small areas is actually quite difficult. A mural can sometimes be easier than these things, and the reason I don't charge a lot for these is because you can only charge so much for them, right? But I charge as much as I think is fair. But it can be very difficult to make a profit off of hand painted ornaments for me, because it's a side gig. And you can only paint these things so fast. All right, so I'm gonna start with, actually I'm gonna get a different brush. I'm gonna start with, let's use this new one. I'm gonna start with the dark blue. And this is where I'm gonna do the horizon line. I don't paint all the way around the ornament usually. And the reason for that, it really depends. I mean, if somebody has spent a fortune on an order, I will, but like it's really difficult because as you can see, I have these little plastic shot glasses that, and you have to like turn them all the way around, and it's, no, you don't see both sides of the ornament anyway. So it's not only a waste of time for me, usually, but my clients, once they put them on the tree, you know, you're only gonna see one side anyway. So now I'm gonna go and dab some of this paint on the horizon line. That's where it'll be the darkest. Whoops. Okay, well that could be a mangrove. For those of you that don't know, I'm in Key West, and we have these little islands out there that are mangroves. And this order is specifically for a Floridian. And their request was for it to be Florida Keys, islandy, so that's perfect. All right, now I'm gonna start adding some green. Make it like that aqua color that we've got down here. That emerald color. Add some white into there. It's probably too much white. I'm gonna add more green. But yeah, painting on glass ornaments I've never really watched YouTube live, so I'm interested in how you, those of you that are in and out of here, I'm interested in how you found this live. Were you scrolling and it popped up, or was there a notification? I'm so curious. I really don't participate a lot in live stuff, unless it's somebody that I'm like subscribed to, that I follow, which there's only a couple of creators out there that I follow like that. So I'm curious. All right, so I'm gonna lighten up this color and I'm gonna give it a wave. Kind of coming up and over. All right, so I'm going to pull a little bit of white and put it in the top of this wave. And then I'm gonna put yellow over it once it's dry. And that'll have like the sun coming through the wave. Gosh, it feels so much better to be on YouTube. I gotta be honest. I don't know. TikTok is just a different world, man. It's it's good for certain things, but I think YouTube is where it's at for me to grow my audience. I'd rather do long form content than short form. All right, so I'm gonna let this dry while I work on the other one. All right. So I usually use a mic stand for my lighting, and oh, wait, 1 second. I'm gonna get myself another light. Stand by, everybody. And I have a camera tripod I can use. I usually use a mic stand. So, 1 second here. I am just struggling. I know you can see them better on camera, but I am struggling to see. So I'm gonna go outside real quick and get another light. Stand by. All right. Okay. So, one moment here. Good girl, Truffles. I've got my little doggy over here. I'm gonna move this. Ooh, careful. All right. This is gonna be much better. Okay. There we go. Now, I know it doesn't matter to you guys because it looks just fine on camera, but man, I need this light. So, and I usually use a mic stand, but I did not have a mic stand because I left it at my other venue. Let's see how we can. There we go. Because for those of you that don't know, I'm a singer, so I'm a singing painter. So there we go. Okay, now we're back. And I just would love all right. I'm gonna move this. All right. Okay, now I feel better. That was just... Okay. So this is an underwater scene, and I am now, so there's this guy on YouTube, his name is Mural Joe, and I learned a lot from watching him. But right now I'm gonna kind of come through and make these like little underwater cliffs that you can see, and I'm gonna mix some blue with them. But you can kind of see when you're underwater, but they're almost the same color when they're off in the distance as the water underwater itself. So you have to kind of use your imagination. Now that there's a layer of paint, it's so much easier. Okay, so there's that. And then I come through here. This is the sea floor. I'm gonna come over here and make a darker rock. And then what I'll do is I'll go around the rim, probably with a gold paint or gold glitter. Okay. So now I'm gonna tilt this, and this is the sea floor. So make it a little bit lighter, but it's still gonna be blue. Painting ornaments is not easy, but it is the season to do it. And after the year I've had, I was ready to do something that was within the holiday spirit of things. All right, so I'm gonna let this dry, and I'm gonna swap my ornaments again. And we're gonna go back. So this wave, I need to put another layer of paint. So this is the not as fun part of painting glass. So I'm gonna put another layer of like a white off-white on the wave so that I can make it so the sun is peeking through. And then I'm going to meet it with some green, because as the sun comes through the wave, and I'm just going to tap my paintbrush into the white. All right. Okay, so that kind of gives it the illusion, and then we'll get more sunlight through it, but I gotta let that dry. And then behind the wave, it's gonna be a little bit darker because of the shadow. So that's where, come in through here. Like I was saying earlier, I mean, I do murals, and I do a lot of painting on metal, but painting ornaments, not just because they're round, but because they're it's so tiny, and it is not easy at all. So as the paint dries, it makes it a little bit more tacky, so I can lightly pull my brush over what I just did. And I'm gonna have seafoam and stuff in here, so there's no need to get too crazy with this layer. So I hope everybody's ready for the holiday season. For anybody who's just joined us, I'm a painting singer down in Key West, and I broke off an engagement last year during this time, just about, and I did not receive the support that I thought I was going to get, and ended up spending the holidays unexpectedly in my friend's basement. And I got these orders at the time, and I didn't know it because my life was such a mess. So I asked my client if she wanted a refund once I realized, and she said no, I would still like the ornaments. So that's what we're doing, is we are painting ornaments that I got in last year when my life was falling apart. All right, so I'm gonna do one more layer on above the wave, just a little bit of blue. We don't add the yellow reflections until a little bit later, so let's do this. Oh my gosh, I'm so glad I went and got that light. It's helping. So anyway, if you're having a hard time with the holidays, I get it. I am here to share with you my experience. I am the black sheep of my family. And I come from, so both my parents were black sheep of their families, so I guess it's kind of fitting. But that's what creativity is for when it comes to me. At least that's how I feel. All right, so I'm gonna let that dry, and I'm gonna come back to my underwater scene. Gonna let that dry. All right, so looks like this side is still drying. So I'm gonna work on this side, and what I'm gonna do, so this is a rock. I don't like to put black on my ornaments, but sometimes I need to get the depth, so I'm gonna do a little bit of black mixed with All right, so this is where I'm gonna get my, oops. Oh dear. So this is where I'm gonna get my tiny brush out. One of them. You can see how tiny that is. Sorry, my phone keeps moving. Sorry about that. Hold on, you guys. Like something's loose. One second, I'm just, there we go. Sorry about that. All right. There. Shoo. All right. That almost made me sweaty. I'm gonna move my paints. It can be difficult to comfortably film alive and also like paint at the same time. So what I'm doing is I'm mixing some black and some blue, and I'm gonna come through on this rock and I'm just gonna make some shadows. Real like fine detail. You can see this is kind of, it's the boring part, but it's the part where you start to see that everything come together. All right, and then, so remember underwater, the further away it is, the lighter it'll look. So I have to be careful I don't make anything too light. So I'm gonna add a little bit of white to the same exact color I just made. I'm just gonna go out here and create off in the distance a little lighter area to the rock, because that part's further away. While also keeping in mind that the light is coming from above on the surface of the water. So leaving space to do that. So I'm gonna now do some dark, and I'm gonna add a little bit of black to this too. Dark green. I'm gonna do some seaweed, and I'm gonna start from the bottom and go up. So like this. I know that this is kind of boring, but sometimes boring is relaxing, right? You guys can kind of see what I'm doing here. It's seaweed on the ocean floor. So if you've endured any kind of hurtful situation, abuse, narcissistic abuse, I do have a playlist on my channel that I made this year that is specifically about that, recognizing the behaviors that could cause you to get linked up with the wrong stuff in your life. And I know during the holidays it can be difficult. I know firsthand. I also have vlogs, and will be coming out with a new one now that my life is getting put back together, so you guys can check that out. I'm just kind of giving some lighter stuff to the seaweed. But anyway, if you know anything about my YouTube, you know that I've been talking quite a bit about narcissistic abuse, and you know, it is a problem. There's a huge epidemic going on with that, and I think it's because people are finally coming out and telling their stories and no longer staying silent. And you know, when people do that, then people think, oh, thanks, hi Pistol. So, you know, when people open up about their situations, you know, it can help other people identify maybe that they've gone through something similar, you know, and it's pretty amazing how many people have gone through the same hardships, and just when you think you're alone, you're not alone. So, all right, I'm going to continue here. With more of this seaweed. Kind of see. All right, so I'm going to come around to this other side, because now that this seawall is dry, I'm going to do the same thing, but I'm going to come in with just this blue and come to the bottom here. I know it's kind of hard for you guys to see. Let's see if I can. The angle of you being able to see and me being able to do what I need to do is difficult. All right. So this is the bottom again of that seawall, is what we call them here in the Florida Keys. This is for a client that put orders in last year, and I did not see the order come in because my life was a mess. That much of a mess. But we are getting it back together here. So the closer things are, the darker they are underwater. And the further away they are, the lighter they are. So now I'm going to go in with my lighter color and get the top of that seawall. And then now would be a good time with this color. So I've just added a little bit of white. And this can be tricky, but this is where I like to go in and do a little bit of water reflection on the seafloor. And I like to water up my paint pretty good. so that it's thin so it doesn't take over everything, but oh boy. So for perspective purposes, you can see that I'm doing the reflection. So for those of you who don't know, I am a singer. I sing Wednesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays. And I'm also a painting artist. Multi-creative. So I know this is kind of boring, but relaxing. So I always say, and I said it in a recent interview I did for a write-up that someone did, that being bored is sometimes the key to not only healing, but reigniting your creativity. So now you can kind of see where I put the ocean floor there. And I really want to do a starfish on the ocean floor. So I'm going to let that dry. Come over here, you can see that this part has dried. See about moving you guys like this. It's so difficult, this whole, like I really want to just do that, but then I can't paint. But you guys can see. Thank you. So this is underwater. They are not done yet. I'll get a nutcracker so you guys can kind of see the level of detail artwork that I do. 1 second. You know, somebody was, and this is not finished either. I was interrupted abruptly last year. But this is a nutcracker that I was working on before my life fell apart. And so you can kind of see it's a sunset on the top. And then got some key lime pie and a conch shell. And then you can see the nutcracker is holding a coconut drink. And then there's waves. So, and there's a starfish, kind of like the one I'm gonna do. But there's a jellyfish. But yeah, that kind of gives you an idea of the level of detail that I do in my art. And so the concept obviously with this one is, you know, a sunset with ocean and then underneath. So if you look at this, it's kind of the same concept, but the sunset will go on this ball and the underwater will go on that ball. Thanks everyone. And then, let's see if I can do this without breaking anything. So yeah, he's got a coconut there too. And then there's the starfish down there on his feet. So it's very time consuming, but well worth the work. I will say. Let's see if I can. All right. All right, let's go back to the sunset and see what we can do here. Here we go. All right. And for those of you who have followed my journey, thank you. I'm working every day to reset my nervous system and try to get back on track with what I was born to do, which is tell stories and paint and sing. I do sing 3 nights a week, and that takes a lot of my bandwidth. I know that sounds a little silly, but when you've gone through the level of trauma I went through, it's not silly at all. And I'm learning to be okay with that. So anyway, well, I'm going to now do another layer right here on the wave. I'm gonna go back to my flat brush. And I'm just gonna do this. Whoop. So this is giving an opportunity for the water to be quite realistic. All right, gonna let that dry again. And now I'm gonna go through and do a little bit of orange out here on the horizon. I should be using. Okay. Okay. Now, I'm gonna mix a little bit of yellow with that orange and start doing my reflection on the water. So for anybody who's been through a lot, even if you're not like a professional artist, just doodling and taking time off your phone from scrolling and doing something creative like this, even if it doesn't have to be good, it's good for you. It doesn't have to be like a masterpiece of art. And I, as an artist, even have to remind myself that. A lot of people say, I don't have a creative bone in my body. It's not true. You just haven't exercised it. We all have it. And some of us more than others, yes, but it's important for us to remember we're here to create. We're not here to just exist. And if you don't feel like that would be relaxing, it's kind of like when people start meditating, they don't find it very relaxing. But once they start doing it, they find it relaxing eventually. And then the other thing to consider is that if you're on your phone, watching content that's long form like this is a lot better for your brain. I know, sounds a little preachy, but it's important that we, especially during the holiday season, protect our bandwidth, especially if we've gone through hard times, which I think, let's be real, I think everybody fits that mold to a degree. All right, so there's a little bit of the reflection happening. And eventually I'll put the sun, but I always do that last because it's so bright.